Ogre Kingdoms. So we got 3 tips here for the Ogre Kingdoms. Help you not make as many mistakes. This can also be helpful for a campaign, honestly. This first one definitely. I'm thinking. Yeah, actually all 3. All 3 apply to campaign for once. But I did make these for multiplayer players. It's mistakes I see new players making a lot of the time. And mistake number 1 is sacrificing Gnoblars to upgrade your Ogre units. So here we have Ogre Bulls with dual weapons, and then we have Iron Guts, Man-Eaters, and Golgi's Man-Eaters. Now, Golgi's Man-Eaters cost 1,600 gold. This first combination costs 750. So that's almost 3 times as much as this first combination. So you could actually have 2 more Ogre Bulls and 2 more Gnoblars. Ogre Bulls with dual weapons and the Gnoblars here, 200 gold plus 650 is 850. Iron Guts are 1,100, Man-Eaters are 1,400. And the point of this is sacrificing the Gnoblars to upgrade your Ogre units is folly, in my opinion. Gnoblars fill a very special role. It's not actually to deal damage, it's to get the Ogres to do less 1v5s and get them more 1v1s. Because any Ogre, like true, just this Ogre walking towards you, not the whole unit, this guy with this belly plate, he can beat any one of these halberdiers. But the problem is when he wanders in there, gets surrounded by 5 or 6, and every swing he hits 1 or 2, and they all swing and hit him 6 or 7 times. So the more elite Ogres, we sacrificed their Gnoblar compatriots to spend more money on them themselves. They are going to pile in. They do a lot of impressive impact damage. Meanwhile, our cheaper Ogre Bulls down here will fight on top of Halberdiers. Now, obviously, Golgi's Man-Eaters on top of Gnoblars is great, but in a world of limited resources and unit slots, sometimes you can make those sacrifices. But of course, the obvious thing is just to have elite Ogres on top of Gnoblars, and then you win. So Man-Eaters here relying on their high stats. Golgi's Man-Eaters relying on high armor, high stats. Iron Guts just defending, relying on high armor. And we can see the Ogre Bulls are still taking damage, of course, but they have way worse stats and they're way cheaper than their compatriots on the top side. They're still getting good damage out. And the time these guys routes, the first guys have routed 1,600 health left in those halberdiers. These ones are at about 3,000 apiece, and down here 5,000, 4,000. Still, the cheaper Ogres are doing worse than the other Ogres. You can see the Iron Guts are about to rout, and they're down to about as much HP as the Ogre Bulls with dual weapons. The Man-Eaters are about to rout, and then Golgi's Man-Eaters did have the combination of high armor and stats is enough to get through those guys. But remember, Golgi's Man-Eaters are 3 times as expensive as this combination, Ogre Bulls and Gnoblars together. So let's take a look quick at the values of the halberdiers themselves. The halberdiers fighting the cheap Ogres, 350 value, still pretty good. I mean, they're halberdiers versus Ogres. 350 on the other one as well. The ones fighting the Iron Guts, 708, yeah, almost 800 value, almost. The ones fighting the Man-Eaters, 700-ish value, and the one fighting the Golgi's Man-Eaters, 430 value. So it is a mix of damage. Like we can see, the Golgi's Man-Eaters flat out won. The regular Man-Eaters are almost winning. The Iron Guts did not win. And then the cheap guys did not win either. But for the cost of what you spent, they're more effective than Man-Eaters, less effective than Golgi's Man-Eaters, more effective than Iron Guts. And again, you're paying 1,600 gold to beat up a 550 unit, so And these guys can rally and come back into the fight. We will do that because the higher leadership of the Man-Eaters over here kept them in the fight for longer. So we will just finish this out, I suppose, and do an end analysis of their values when they're all done. All right, Iron Guts flat out died. So this halberdier ended up getting almost 1,000 value. 1,000 value over here. And then for these halberdiers that fought the cheaper versions, 520 and 500. And with the secondary charge, when those Ogres and Gnoblars rallied together, they actually ended up doing more damage than the Iron Guts did. They did about as much damage as the Man-Eaters did. You know, and they're still alive, so I think they can come back for a third charge even. It's just more cost effective to do this sort of thing, pairing your cheaper Ogres with Gnoblars, than just to have more elite Ogres wandering on their own. I know that was a long example, so yeah, but it takes a while for everybody to die. Next ones will be shorter, I promise. But mistake number 2 I see from the Ironblaster is using them at inappropriate ranges. So the Ironblaster technically has a ton of range. Technically has 380. But Ironblasters usually do a lot better at shorter ranges. And at the longer range, they actually are just wasting ammunition. They only have 20 ammo, so you can't afford to, you know, blow it all. I'm going to move this other one up to be a little closer for a different demonstration in a second. So, mistake number 2 is just using Ironblasters poorly. Here we're going to have one fire at max range and one fire at a little less than max range. One cannonball hits. One cannonball hits. We did about 400 more damage at closer range. And the long shot's going to come in again. Medium range hit again. Longer range kind of tickled them. I think I do a third volley. Yep, okay. So the 3 volleys, the hyper long range one has gotten 27 kills, 120 value with, you know, 3 out of his 20 ammunition. This next one's gotten 150 value, so better, but still not great. These are both, one is the worst way. The worst way to use an Ironblaster is at max range. It's just too inaccurate, does not do enough damage for how much you're paying and the ammunition it has. Medium range is fine, but you generally want to be firing into clusters, clumps, or large units. The best way to use an Ironblaster and what you're paying for is to get side shots down infantry. You can see most of the misses were a vertical spread, so if there's units behind what you're shooting at, every cannonball hits, you do a lot more damage. So in one volley, I got 300 value, while the one at max range in 3 volleys got 100 value, and the one at medium range got 150. So I got half the damage value of me in one volley with 3. That one got like a third. The correct way to use Ironblasters against infantry is up the side. And there. I let him do 3 volleys. He got to 913 value. Got 303 volleys like everyone else. 220 kills compared to 33 or 27. Firing up the side is important. And of course, those guys were standing still in sandbox mode. I get that. But like when your Noblars are engaged, you can roll up on the sides and get shots down the clumped up infantry as well. It's just, the whole point of this was if you're taking an Ironblaster to shoot at infantry, you're screwing up unless you're shooting from the side. Otherwise, this is just not the unit to do that type of work. And then part 2 of that is cavalry. So cavalry, you don't really want to do that like side shot thing because that's a little harder to pull off and they're fast enough to run you down. So cavalry, it is more acceptable to fire it close on, but I did want to show that I believe this is close enough range. There is a thing where you get too close and then the accuracy actually gets worse. And medium range is best. So if you're shooting at large targets, you don't want to be max range, but you also don't want to be too close. It's weird. Now there is always some RNG to it, but I have noticed that consistently when you get too close with an Ironblaster to large targets, they just overshoot the mark quite a lot. Yeah, 3 shots just went right past him. But the medium range is again doing better. 5,000 HP, 5,600, and 6,200. With Ironblasters versus infantry, get nice and close and get side shots. Ironblasters versus cavalry or large targets, get into medium range, and then fire from wherever. Same number of volleys for everybody. More damage on the medium range, less damage on the short and long range. The last tip I have for you, my friends, is when people take the Blood Cleaver, you get some heals per second when you're in melee. Some people think this means they can throw their Slaughtermaster into just random melee fights with all the rest of their units. I'm here to tell you that's not actually what that item is used for. So this guy's going to charge into just Spearman. You can see he's going to take significant damage, like way more than the healing can offer. And it's also just not a cost-effective way of spending your Lord's HP. It's not really what this is here for. And I know this is a bad faith scenario because normally you'd have Noblars or other Ogre Bulls helping him out. But my main point is the Blood Cleaver is not so you can join in the frontline fight and just sit there and AFK. So soon I'm going to cast a comment on him to bail him out of this situation. But I just want to show how even basic infantry can completely whoop this guy's ass. So instead, what's easier is when something's already routing. Now, this isn't about his comment. You can take comment if you want. That's not my point. Like, when you see something routing and you want to charge up his various melee things, because extra ingredients charges only when you're in melee, Blood Cleaver heals you only when you're in melee. I'm trying to say that the Slaughtermaster is much better at chasing stuff that's already routing. and then not taking any damage in return and taking up that healing unopposed. So it's more, this item is not meant for him to jump into infantry or cavalry and just fight his ass off. It's more of here for after he already takes some damage, you can peel him off from the main battle and have him chase some stuff down and get some free healing in the later stages of the game, and then also help charge his extra ingredients, of course, and all that stuff. But don't take his in melee things and then recklessly throw your lord away. I see them often die, or even if they don't die, they just take a lot of damage and then your lord is in trouble. And ogres aren't a particularly high leadership faction, so they can't afford to lose their lord. But Blood Cleaver is very nice for chasing routing units and refreshing your lord. All right, hope those helped.
Subscribe, yes, yes.